Can you tell us about some of the interesting projects you're working on right now?
Well, first I want to say how remarkable it is that the Real Deal is celebrating their 20th anniversary. Because if you'd gone back for the decade before the Real Deal was founded, the only real estate coverage was about abandoned buildings, arson, and the city messing things up. So for them to take a leap of faith in 2003 and say there was going to be a future in real estate in New York was really pretty extraordinary, and I don't think they get enough credit for that. So,
that's great.
You know, the last few years, my practice has been a mix of representing reportedly some of the best developers in the city and allegedly some of the worst landlords. Representing the developers is much more fun because you get to see the skyline change. And I think of the things I've worked on most recently, the Gowanus rezoning was probably the most meaningful. It was a terrific community engagement process. The elected officials, particularly Brad Lander, who is a self-proclaimed socialist, couldn't have been more supportive of development in that area. We worked really hard with city planning to work on environmental issues, maintain the arts community, and really what I think is going to be a really special place once it's fully built out.
What is the secret to your success in getting projects done?
I think the secret to getting success is communication. It's not like the old days where a few people could go into a back room and cut a deal. If you don't have a communication strategy going into a rezoning, you're going to lose. You can't assume that just because a politician tells you that they're going to be okay, that they're going to be okay if 100 people show up at a community board meeting yelling at them. So you need to organize, you need to be engaged, but most importantly, Sydnee, you need to think about what the real impact of is going to be on the community. So no matter how important it is, no matter how wonderful it is, they need to think about it from the community's point of view and try and work with the community to see if they can get to some consensus.
How has 421A's disappearance impacted your ability to get projects done?
Well, 421A hasn't impacted the entitlement process.
Okay.
What it's done is let the air out of the tires of actual development. So I'm seeing projects fall by the wayside. I was talking with an architect just recently. He said half a dozen of his projects, they've just stopped dead because they can't move forward. Maybe they started with their own equity. They can't get financing now. It's a terrible, terrible policy choice that government made. But I'm afraid that we're not going to see the full effects of it for a few years, and I don't think it's going to get fixed right away. I know a lot of people are hoping against hope that it's going to happen soon, but I would put some money down that it's not happening for at least 3 or 4 years.
How do you manage to navigate complex political waters in this city?
The key to sort of navigating here is to be upfront with people, to engage with them, to be respectful, to consider what they have to say, and to see if you can find some way to align the public interest and the private interest. And I'll give you an example of that. In Dumbo, Jed Walentis, Two Trees, terrific company, had proposed to build a building right next to the Brooklyn Bridge. It was rejected by the local council member, and they had to pull the application because of local opposition. People didn't like the Walentis family. They thought it was too close to the bridge, whatever the case may be. Jed and his father David came to me and said, any ideas of what to do? And I told them, why don't we put a public middle school in the building? There's no middle school seats in the neighborhood. It's driving families out of there. And your basis on the land, fortunately, was low enough that they could afford to provide the core and shell for a 40,000 square foot middle school. Well, that was pretty powerful. We still ran into opposition from people in Brooklyn Heights. So what we did was we went around the local council member. We went to the council member in the next district over, a few blocks away, a woman by the name of Tish James. And we said, Tish, those people in Brooklyn Heights, they don't want to work with us. This was supposed to be a Brooklyn Heights school. This should be a District 13 school. This school should be for the kids from your neighborhoods, from the housing developments, and we'll work with the school to make sure that your kids get a shot at the future. As a result of that, she became our champion just outside of her district. impasse, net result, Christine Quinn, then the city council speaker, came and walked the district with the opponents, walked the district with us, and then came down and said this was enough citywide importance that she was going to recommend that the council approve it. And now the middle school is thriving.
What do you see as New York City's biggest challenge right now?
Look, at the tactical level, the biggest challenge is that we have predominance of politicians. A third of them don't understand real estate economics. A third of them don't believe the numbers when they're presented with them. And a third of them don't care. They think the real estate industry makes too much money, and if it all became public housing, they would be okay. So that's a challenge for the industry, because I think we've lost the narrative, and it's going to take a while to get it back. At the macro level, at the strategic level, I'm very worried about the liquidity crisis. Not just the office buildings that are having trouble getting tenants and having trouble, with their refinances, but I'm particularly concerned about the Signature Bank portfolio, multifamily, underwritten on the expectation that rents were going to go up, low interest rates. It's all coming due in the next 3 to 5 years. Community Bank didn't buy that portfolio, and I'm concerned that a lot of those buildings are going to wind up in special services or in the hands of the wrong people who are not going to invest in them, and all of a sudden we're going to have pockets of blight the way we did in the 90s. We got past that, but I'm really worried about it. I don't know what the solution is.